Welcome to our podcast today. I am Kevin, and I am going to be interviewing Chad Taylor. He is the author and writer of Evil Within. So we have a few questions for you, Chad, and here is number one. What do you see as the role of the visual arts in our mass-mediated world, and particularly in your profession?
Thank you for having me, Kevin. It's good to be here. Let's see. So, to answer your first question, I've always thought that visual arts, they'll always play an important part in media, as it has been for some time now. Today's times, it's much easier for visual arts to draw the attention of many, depending on what the people like. Of course, this is how things are sold and distributed today. For me as a writer and a producer, the visual arts help promote my subject matter, either book or movie. Without the visual imaginary of what is to come, most would turn away. Nowadays, people rely on what they can see or get a brief description of what lies ahead.
Thank you, Chad, for answering that question. Moving on to question number two. With new communications and media technologies, imaginary is almost instantly available. Do you believe that this is having a positive or negative influence on the industry? And please, if you can, give us some examples as well.
Well, the way technologies are today, I think it has nothing but great benefit. What we use, takes years, maybe a lifetime. Well, it can basically be done overnight when you truly get down to it. Helping the author or the producer get the word out about their next work being done. The traditional ways are great, but what better way to promote something that you know and understand better than anyone? I will be uploading a file for you for my book trailer for an example. Besides, you can see examples every day when you turn on the TV or go online. Visual aid is always there to pull you in and keep you caught up in the moment for a brief second or two.
Yes, I feel the same way about technology. Facebook, Twitter, even YouTube, they all add great aspects for basically almost free advertising to your friends within itself. So let's move on to the next question, Chad. And what popular images do you see that are frequently rechanneled throughout the entertainment industry, if any?
It really depends on the person and their interest. For me, horror draws me in. The main reason why the industry is always trying to make it better, but a lot of times ends up destroying the original that should have been left alone. The Clash of Titans is a great image of the gods. This is one image that always remained with man from the beginning. Most images are of war, murder, and love. These three will never change and still remain the most sought after books and movies.
All right, moving on to question number four. Are there any particular images that the industry has popularized and or created, in your opinion?
a popular lo- a popularized image that comes to mind is the Muppets. Who does not love the Muppets? Since the beginning of their career, they have come and grown a long ways, introducing them into families, homes. Still today, they are and remain on top of one of the greatest things ever invented. Once the industry finds something that will excel to the top, they never stop. They make sure it remains popularized. Another image that have popularized is horror. There are several images you can put with this. This is how they strike fear into homes. Take Michael Myers, Jason, Friday the 13th, Chucky, Leatherface, and so on. These images will always remain.
All right, Chad. So, who's one of your favorite visual artists or artists? And of course, what is your favorite style of visual art?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go with Clive Barker. He's one of my favorite artists when it comes to books and movies. The intensity he goes into to show or tell something is one you would have to travel deep into your mind and understand how. But when it really comes down to it, most can visualize the same thing if they just let themselves. The way he goes into detail with his scenes of gore are great. The next would be Stephen King. He is another that can twist the mind when need be. Most think you have to see something, but the imagination is one of great importance than actually seeing it. I really don't have a favorite style, like and love all kinds of art. The Greeks probably would be the art I'm most interested in when it comes to consulter. Something about the Greek gods draws my attention.
So, how has your knowledge of famous artworks influenced your creative process?
You take the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper, the crucifix, the status of the Greek gods. This all has influenced man in creating their lives and stories they tell. Most stories told are of history and of oneself. Like most, though, you look at something long enough and you decide you can do better. So you try, and most of the time you create something that puts you on top or equal to the person you are trying to outdo. But in reality, you will never beat them. They have achieved it way before you. The only thing you can do is let yourself become known for the works you have done, so everyone can say this is truly an artist.
So, Chad, did any of your So, Chad, did any artwork influence the novel or story you published?
No, not really. Art really does not play a role in my writing, but if I was to have to pick one, it would be of hell. Not in a bad way, just the way I write. It is one of blood, guts, and gore, so the images of demons would play a big part. The way I write and tell a story, either in a book or movie, is of love, suspense, drama, horror, and the unknown.
Oh, well, I want to thank you for joining me on this podcast. I have one last question for you, Chad. Do you find that many other artworks, or works, I should say, not really artworks, works, influence your stories?
Thank you for having me on this podcast, Kevin. To answer your question, I'm going to have to say yes, there are a lot of works that made me decide to do what I do. Anyone can write or film. You just have to know what, when, and where. Stephen King probably influenced me more than any. I love his books and the way he can tell a story. I just go into more detail than he usually does. The way he gets into your mind and makes a master at telling stories, the way I do to my readers, but with the imaginary of the aftermath. Another few would be Mark Twain, Clive Baker, Dean Koontz, and Anna Rice, and Goosebumps. All great writers and storytellers that have given me the will to do what I do. Listen, everyone has a story to tell. Just tell it. Someone will read it. Not all like the same thing. If they did, you would be a god in this world of writing. Art plays a big part in our lives, one way or another. Just many really don't see it that way. But when you really look deep inside, you will see it in one form or another.